If you're thinking about buying an iPad Pro right now, there is one question you should probably ask before spending your money. Should you buy the current iPad Pro, or should you wait for Apple's rumored M6 generation? And this is actually a much more complicated decision than simply asking which iPad is faster. Because the current iPad Pro is already extremely powerful. Apple's current iPad Pro uses the M5 chip, comes in 11-inch and 13-inch versions, and features a tandem OLED Ultra Retina XDR display with promotion. The 2025 models are also remarkably thin, with the 13-inch model measuring just 5.1 millimeters thick. So if you buy one today, you're not buying outdated hardware. You're buying one of Apple's most powerful tablets. But there is another iPad Pro reportedly coming. Current reports point toward a new generation arriving in spring 2027, with Apple expected to continue offering 11-inch and 13-inch models. More importantly, the focus appears to be on internal improvements rather than a major exterior redesign. And this is where the buying decision becomes interesting. The rumored M6 iPad Pro could bring a faster Apple Silicon generation, a new 2-nanometer manufacturing process, improved efficiency, and potentially a vapor chamber cooling system designed to improve sustained performance. But should those improvements make you wait? For some people, absolutely. For others, probably not. And by the end of this video, you should have a much clearer idea of which category you fall into. Let's start with the most important factor: when you actually need the device. If you need an iPad Pro today for work, school, creative projects, travel, video editing, drawing, note-taking, or productivity, waiting until 2027 simply because a faster model might arrive may not make sense. The current M5 iPad Pro is already extremely capable. Apple currently sells the 11-inch and 13-inch versions with the M5 chip, and the base 256GB configurations currently start at $1,199 for the 11-inch model and $1,499 for the 13-inch model in the United States. Those prices are important because this is not a budget purchase. When you're spending this much money on a tablet, you want to know whether buying now is a mistake. And the answer depends heavily on what you already own. If you're coming from an older iPad with an A-series processor, the current M5 iPad Pro can already represent a massive upgrade. You don't necessarily need to wait for M6 to experience a huge improvement. The display will be dramatically more advanced than what you'll find on many older iPads. The performance will be significantly higher. The overall design is modern, and the device has enough processing power to remain useful for years. So if your current tablet is old, slow, damaged, or no longer meeting your needs, buying the current model can be completely reasonable. But now let's look at the opposite situation. What if you already own an M4 or M5 iPad Pro? This changes everything. If you already have a recent M-series iPad Pro and it works well for your daily tasks, upgrading to the rumored M6 model becomes much harder to justify. Why? Because the biggest problem isn't that the current iPad Pro is slow. It isn't. The bigger question is whether the new hardware will actually change what you can do. This is a distinction that buyers often miss. A faster processor doesn't automatically mean a dramatically better user experience. If your current iPad opens applications instantly, smoothly scrolls through websites, edits photos without hesitation, plays high-resolution video, and handles your normal workload comfortably, an M6 chip may not suddenly transform those experiences. You might notice faster performance in demanding workloads. You might see better sustained performance. You might benefit from improved AI processing, but everyday activities could feel surprisingly similar. This is why the M6 iPad Pro should be viewed as a professional performance upgrade rather than something every iPad owner needs. Now let's talk about the biggest rumored hardware improvement: cooling. This may actually be more important than the processor itself. The current iPad Pro is incredibly thin. That is one of its biggest selling points. But ultra-thin devices create a serious engineering problem: heat. A powerful processor generates heat when it is pushed hard. And when you put a powerful chip inside an extremely thin fanless tablet, there is limited room for traditional cooling hardware. Reports indicate Apple has been working on bringing vapor chamber cooling to the iPad Pro, potentially debuting with the next generation. The purpose would be to improve sustained performance and reduce thermal throttling. This is important because there is a major difference between peak performance and sustained performance. Imagine you start exporting a huge 4K video. The processor begins working extremely hard. Performance is excellent. But as the temperature increases, the system has to manage heat.